presentation. Hopefully you can see that. Is that okay? Yes, so this might look slightly familiar. So the Frome School Street trial pop-up, and that is one of the main things about this, is that it is a trial and it is also pop-up. We can develop it as it goes along, and we can really tweak it and change it, and we can remove it as well if people really don't like it. So the idea is just to try it and explain to people what hopefully some of the benefits will be. So to give a bit of background, we know from our What Next for Frome survey that cycling, cycling in particular, is one of the most popular areas in Frome. So I think one of the questions was, which area do you think Frome Town Council should act on? And I think it was supporting businesses was number one, but transport was number two, and then cycling was the top thing in that. So it really is high priority, both nationally and also locally. And it was amazing, just seeing people cycling on the empty streets during lockdown. It was just a great experience, a silver lining. So what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks and months is working with a very experienced transport consultant called Jess Reed. And the reason that we worked with her is because she really is sort of an expert in sort of transformative projects that prioritise people over cars. So she's worked for a global corporation that's done lots of projects in Holland and in Denmark, where they've got amazing sort of cycle schemes and walking shared space schemes. She's also worked with Bristol Council to do their playing out strategy, and the University of Bristol as well, and sort of looking at the impacts of these programmes. So she's the person. She's to blame. She suggested this, and I thought it sounded like a really good idea. And it's not like it came out from nowhere either. So we've also had the interactive map that's had over 2,000 comments, and through that, and just through being a parent myself at the local schools, I'm totally aware of the congestion and issues that there are around particularly those streets, I'd say. And obviously those schools are not unique. So the idea really is that we would do it here, and see how it goes. And then in the future, if it was successful, and people did like it, then maybe we could trial it in other areas and other school areas. So this is hopefully just the beginning, but obviously we want to make sure people are happy and trying it. So the idea is that, and then nationally, there's been a massive switch. There's been 75 years of policy that have prioritised cars over bikes and people, and finally the government seems to be saying to local authorities and county councils like Somerset, look, we actually really want to change some of this and put some money and investment and really sort of change the priority. So so they've changed the definition of walking and cycling are now considered as transport. Apparently they weren't before. And then the Emergency Active Travel Fund has been developed, and it's through that. So Frome Town Council itself has put some money aside to do an initial trial of the project, and then we've also applied for additional funding via Somerset and the national government funding to then develop it more if it is found to be successful. And it's through that we'll have planters and other nice things as part of the programme, if that's what people want. And really, this is in a context of COVID. It's about getting more people on their bikes. It's about boosting health. It's about getting people out having fresh air, which is good for mental health and physical health. It's about reducing congestion. And it's in the context of the whole coronavirus response. So that's why it's quite the timescales. Ideally, you would have months to work with everybody to develop it, but actually what's been happening nationally is that lots of authorities have been saying, right, this is the time, we need to implement it, see what people think, and really just prioritise it so that we can enable people to be active and also socially distant as well. So I've mentioned some of this already, but obviously it's important because 1 in 3 children in Mendip, for example, show indication of metabolic disease. Half of children in Mendip are not meeting the basic health requirements for being active, and 2 in 3 adults are overweight or obese, which is massive, isn't it? And just getting 5 to 10 minutes of exercise every day could make a big difference to that. And then in terms of climate change and air quality, passenger cars are the single largest contributor to carbon. And in Mendip towns, cars, we're very highly car dependent. And lots of journeys, it says here 69% of journeys, are less than 2 miles. So they're totally walkable, potentially. So this is the presentation that Jess Reed did. So she was looking at how far animals travel. So sheepdogs apparently do 100 kilometers a day, which seems amazing. Hedgehogs, 3 kilometers. And apparently 3 kilometers is the chief medical officer's recommendation for being active every day. And then when you look at Froom's actually only 2.5 kilometers across. So, you know, enabling people to sort of park and stride, or ideally walk or cycle to school, that's the priority. But if people do need to drive, to park and stride and get a little bit of exercise and fresh air as part of that is really important for health and well-being, as well as emissions and safety. And then we know that from doing, for example, the Active Travel Challenge, we know that every time we do that, and it's a relatively simple program, it's about just raising the profile of active travel and the benefits. It's not about creating extra infrastructure and things. But every time we've done that, we found that active travel actually increases by about 20%. So we know it's possible to increase that. Yeah. Excuse me. So what is a school street? Can I move that? That's better. A school street is an active corridor that prioritises safe walking and cycling. And access only means that residents can still park in front of their houses, school staff can still park at the school, emergency vehicles, refuse collectors, buses, everyone can still access the area. It's more about sort of creating a general area that's where walking and cycling is prioritised, and really working, particularly I'd say with the school community, to encourage people to not park in the area and ideally travel actively to school. And the idea of this one is that, I mean, potentially, so we're looking at it, we're being quite ambitious, and if this goes ahead, this would be the largest school street in the country, because it would link down, I'll show you a map in a moment actually, but it would link down to Victoria Park as well. Okay, so this is the map. The idea is to restrict access to Oakfield Road, to the top of Nunney Road, down to Linfield Road, and then across Somerset Road as well, down to Victoria Park. And then we have been looking at, so we haven't finalised the design, and the whole consultation that we're doing at the moment will feed into the final design, which we can tweak because it's initially signage and things like that. We can definitely move things around. So we are looking at, for example, whether there might be a possibility to bring it back slightly so that people can still access the road parallel to the bus, which I can't remember its name. And then in terms of what's going to happen, so there'll be signage or planters ideally in the longer term at sort of key stages, just to remind people that this is a restricted access. It's not that the road is closed, it's about restricted access. And you know, if people are running late and they've got a sick child they need to pick up, or they've got tons of stuff they need to take in, you know, they can still park in the area. It's not about being too sort of dogmatic about it, but it is about the general thing around please don't park in this area and let's create a nice safe space. Sort of going along that same principle, what we're looking at is hopefully enabling some crossover points as well. So for example, if you're driving up Domit's Lane and need to get across Somerset Road, which will be the restricted access area, hopefully we can have just some really clear signage that says you're about to cross over a school street area, please be careful as you cross, and then you can carry on to Green Lane and up that way. So hopefully we can still enable people to access the stuff they need without restricting it too much, but at the same time creating this safe space for walkers and cyclists. So what does a school street look like? So we're not saying road closed actually, we're saying access only, and there's another sign that's coming up in a moment I'll show you that says it's a bit more positive, but it's basically an emergency pop-up school street, and the first iteration will be the signage and cones. In fact, it'll be more like the barriers you see on the right hand side, and then I think I've got some nice pictures here. So the message is more like road open. It's open to scooting, cycling, walking, everything else. And there's lots of examples around the country. In London, they've been doing a lot on this. They've also done them in Bristol and lots of other areas too. So in terms of implementing it, the proposed stages is that currently we're doing the feasibility and the consultation over the next few weeks. Then we want to do a 12-week trial with a pop-up installation with plastic barriers and signage starting on the 7th of September. And then we'll fine-tune it each month. So the idea is that initially we'll set it up on the 7th, then we'll have a meeting 2 weeks later with anybody that wants to kind of input and talk about it, and then we'll have monthly meetings from then on to sort of tweak it and yeah, analyze it and see how people are feeling about it. And if people are happy with it and most people, obviously not everyone's going to like it, but hopefully most people will, and then we'll then move on to an 18-month trial, which hopefully will get this DFT funding, which could support that, and really just make it much nicer, have nice planters or bee-friendly plants in, or enable the community to take a planter for their neighbourhood and plant, salads and things like that, whatever they want really. Potentially little pocket parks, other stuff. It's really about making it, fun and a safe space. And then if all that goes ahead, then in June 2022, we'd decide whether the school street could be made permanent or removed. But it can be removed at any point. So will it work? We don't know. This is really experiential kind of consultation, I would say. So it's about people trying it and then seeing what they think. So it is quite a quick turnaround, but we do know, we've worked with the schools through Marjorie and the Missing Link, for example, for the last 3 years with the Active Travel Challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, every time we've done that, during that week or two, we find that the active travel increases 20%. So that's 20% less cars driving to the area. And then year on year, we've also found that there's been a 10% increase in active travel. So it is one of those things, if you kind of promote and support, it does actually help to increase it year on year. So hopefully on the back of that, we'll enable lots of families to walk and cycle more. And there was a recent school streets review that was published last week that shows a lot of the benefits, the health benefits, how they're working around the country. Okay, next one. So in terms of the engagement plan, so we've developed a leaflet. We've done one for local residents, and we would love your help door knocking and taking that round to people and asking what they think. That would be really, really great. And then we've also done a specific leaflet for schools and the school community to ask them what they think and to explain the concept. We're also linking with Nunny, because the idea is, because we're potentially restricting access to the top of Nunny Road, that ideally, if people need to access Nunny, they'll need to use the bypass, and vice versa if you're coming back from Nunny. Obviously, the buses and everything can go through there, but that would create a really nice, safe walking and cycling route between Nunny as well, which would be good. And again, if we found to be supportive, we'll do a mini active travel challenge in September. And then we have an online meeting today, and then a public meeting again on the 25th of August, if anyone wants to join that. And this is our new leaflet, which our comms team did a great job designing, and it will be going around to all the households in the local area. And then there is, an online questionnaire, which is on our website, knocking for safer school streets. We really need as many people as possible to distribute the leaflets. We've got a map, and I've got a Google Sheet with all the list of streets. And the aim is really, to share the information. It's not about necessarily convincing people, but it's about, the way I was talking about it yesterday was, about creating this safer area for walking and cycling, whilst still enabling people to cross over and to, potentially not closing off the roads to other people. We've got leaflets, we've got street list, volunteer badges and hand sanitizer that we can give to each volunteer. So in terms of where we're looking to door knock, obviously people that live in the areas that are actually on the school street, hopefully they'll be broadly happy with it, because it won't be there won't be any restrictions to them. They can still access their house, still go around the area without any restrictions. So that should be fine, but obviously we still need to talk to them about it. So really I've been focusing on the sort of 2 squares here, around Critchell and Westover and around there, and then the areas I suppose to the south and slightly to the north of Nunny Road. Yesterday I actually started on Broadway and made my way up there. And I've got a Google Sheet with lots of things. And then if we've got capacity, the more people we can talk to about this, the better. We could go as far as, we'll go down to the butts and talk to people there as well, if there are people. Or if there are residents that live there that would be happy to talk to their neighbours about it, that would be brilliant too. So in terms of keeping safe, if we can, linking people up with a buddy, or taking a friend with you to do it would be really, really good. I used to work for Waste Watch, where we did lots of recycling, door knocking, and we had teams of people going out, and we'd always make sure that there was one person on one side of the road and one on the other, and just keeping an eye out for each other. And obviously is pretty, dropping a leaflet, stepping back and having a conversation, is reasonably safe thing to do, but it is good to be keeping an eye on each other, and and also some moral support and things. So taking a mobile phone is really important, having appropriate clothing. Yesterday obviously it was absolutely boiling, so having sun cream and water and comfortable shoes, really important. And the idea is that we basically take a leaflet, put it through the letterbox, knock on the door, and then step back 2 meters so that we can have the conversation. And I found that worked really well yesterday. Obviously not everyone was in, but I spoke to a lot of people, and having that distance was still fine. And if you want to wear a face covering, that's totally fine. I just felt like, because I wanted to be able to speak to people and sort of smile, that I didn't. So, but yeah, and having that distance felt fine. Between each household that I visited, so obviously you're putting the leaflet through, you're also touching their doorbell, for example. So I just sanitize my hands between each visit. So I suppose it's up to each person, but obviously sanitizing regularly is really important. And then looking out for signs and notes around dogs or loose dogs in the gardens is really important. And obviously, if you don't feel comfortable, just don't go in there. And then, if there are any incidences, to please let us know. That would be great. In terms of the script, sorry if this is a bit over the top, but this is obvious. I'm sure everyone knows this, but just trying to be as polite and respectful and friendly as possible. And so yesterday I was saying like, "Hi, my name's Anna." If you live in the local area, it's great to say that I live, around the corner or in a local street. So I was saying, yes, I'm volunteering with Frome Town Council to find out what people think about the new Safer School Streets project. I've just dropped a leaflet through your door, but basically the idea is to restrict access to Nunney, Oakfield and Somerset roads, to create a safer space for everyone to walk and cycle, and to reduce congestion at school drop-off and pick-up times. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it seemed to work. And there's a map and a questionnaire on the leaflet, and the main message really is, we'd love to hear what you think, and if you have anything that you think needs to be considered as part of that, do put it on the leaflet. And what I found, and do you have any questions? What I found was yesterday, because it's a new idea and they've only just got the leaflet, I didn't really find any animosity at all, and especially as you're talking about safety and school and cleaner air and walking and cycling for families and things. I did have one person that said, "Oh, well, cyclists are not very respectful anyway." So I talked about having the idea of having these signs at the crossings to really encourage and promote respect between all travellers, really, whether on foot, bike, or car. So that's part of the sort of key messaging, I suppose, is about trying to create this safer space where we do respect people, because he was complaining about people cycling and scooting on the pavement. But other than that, everyone I spoke to said, "Oh, that's a brilliant idea. That's perfect." Just because we're all used to walking and cycling more, and it was really good. I suppose the thing that will happen is, as people were mentioning earlier, is that when the restrictions do start, and if there is some displacement, hopefully there won't be much. But if there is, then I suppose that's the time we'll probably get the complaints. But we can deal with that, and then, as I say, monitor it as we go along and change it if we need to. The key messages, I've mentioned some of these already, but if residents live on the school street roads, there's no restrictions for them or anyone that needs to visit them. Buses, people with disabilities, school staff, tradespeople, they can access the area without restriction. But the main thing is, and in the survey we've highlighted that, is that because there will be more people walking and cycling, hopefully, they will need to drive probably a bit more slowly and more carefully in those areas. We are proposing that at the moment you can still go across, for example, Somerset Road, so that people can still. So really, the main, in terms of access points, I suppose mainly Oakfield Road that would be restricted, and then the Nunney link to Nunney Village. If there's an emergency, people can still drive through and park in the area, as a one-off. It's a pop-up, the design is flexible, we can adapt it over time. And that really this fits into a national COVID-19 response from the national government about having emergency measures that enable people to walk and cycle. And yeah, walking and cycling every day actually reduces the risk of COVID-19 and reduces the potential burden on the NHS. So that's part of the rationale for introducing it now. And it's great for mental health too. So just next steps in terms of signing up for door knocking. I know lots of you have been in touch with me, which has been brilliant. Thank you. But if you haven't, if you could leave your details either in the chat or email me, and maybe specify if there are any areas, for example, that you're familiar with or that you live in, that you'd be happy to do. And if you can, ideally, if you can find your own buddy, that would be brilliant. But otherwise, I can hopefully link you up with someone. And then we've got the volunteer packs that I mentioned with the leaflets, the volunteer badge, the hand gel if you need it, and the street sheet that can be picked up at the town hall either tomorrow morning between, well, at about 11ish, or next week actually. Sean's going to be in the town hall from 10 till 5 every day. So if you needed to pick it up, or I'm very happy to cycle over on my electric bike and deliver it to you. So